Hey guys, Texas Shrugged. I think this video is going to be very long and very, very deep and in-depth. I've been making so many hoax videos showing the hoax in different ways, which is an attempt to wake up not the people that watch this video, because Google and YouTube have me in a box. Only the people that are shown these videos are people like you that already know what's going on, so ultimately it's just hamsters on a wheel. We don't get anywhere. But I do feel I'm getting a sense as to what is going on, the deepest levels of what is going on. And I thought, well, this is what needs to be shared, Matt. Stop spending 2 hours producing a cool video with a cool music. You're just showing people what they already know. If I am a step closer to what's really going on this planet or in reality, that's what needs to be shared. And amongst us, people coming into this as a newbie, they're going to think I'm crazy and tune out. They won't have any idea what I'm talking about, but I think you will, because we've been in this bucket long enough. So, without further ado, that's what I'm going to do in this video, and I'm going to do it in sections. I'm going to think on the next section and come right back. So I will, unlike many of my videos, I just go right through for 20 minutes. This will be more carefully planned and in parts. For the people that complain I never get to the point, I'm going to present ultimately what I think's going on, but it's not going to make a lot of sense unless you listen to the back 20 minutes. However, I wouldn't want you to listen to 20 minutes and then me deliver this and say, oh, all that, I don't agree with that. So let me just get it out there, and then I will justify it. Well, look, ultimately, let me just say this. Remember the video a few videos back, I said ultimately we are fish in a fish tank. So if you could talk to a fish in a fish tank, he would have no idea that his tank wasn't all there was in the universe, all there was in the world. The fish in the fish tank would never understand there's something called the Pacific Ocean or Lake Michigan. It would be beyond his comprehension. And just a few grades up, we are in that same situation. So ultimately, when I tell you what I believe is going on, don't think of it as fish in a fish tank with how that or what Matt says is going on fits into your little box of understanding. And I'm not trying to run anybody down. I have a little box of understanding. I'm saying we all do, because human beings in the grand scheme of things are just a few rungs higher than that fish in the fish tank. So the fish in the fish tank sees a big 55-gallon tank. He can't comprehend Lake Michigan. We see whatever this planet is and what we're told about the universe, whether that's real or not. That's all we see. There could be not just something beyond that. There could be a million somethings beyond that. Things we could never comprehend because of the limitations of the human brain. So just as you think this, or we collectively discuss this, I say things, I get you thinking, you provide comments. I guess we go full circle here in terms of knowledge sharing. The comments that collectively come back equal the video that I'm putting out. It's a full circle. Just make sure that you're thinking around two corners and you're not being a fish in a fish tank. That's all I ask. It has to do, in my opinion, everything that's going on has to do with infighting, in my opinion. It's divide and conquer, but there's more to it. I mean, you know that. I mean, I'm not telling you anything new. What's new, I'll just get right to the point. What's new to many of you is I do believe that the beings or whatever creatures control this world. And what that means is there's George W. Bush. He's a puppet. We know Dick Cheney was his handler. He goes into a back room. Donald Trump's the puppet president. There's Jared Kushner, the shady figure lurking around, and he goes into a back room. Whoever the minions are in the back room and the masters that they report to. The purpose of this video is not to say whether they're Draco aliens, off-world beings, simply human beings, but of Rothschild, secret societies. It doesn't matter. There's something in the back room. And whoever's in the back room or whatever is in the back room is feeding off negative energy. I've spent a lot of time in a lot of different types of research, and there's some wonderful channels on YouTube that talk about, it's just all about resonance, frequency, harmonics, the way a psychic might be able to say that they could see an aura about someone. It is very similar to the movie Jupiter Ascending. It was so bad that not many people saw it. And maybe it was made bad on purpose so not many people would see it, because it generally, in my opinion, gives away what's going on this planet. A group of ultra elites, or whoever is in the back room, they might be human, they might not be human. I don't think we'll ever find that out. It doesn't matter, because to beat it or to change, we need to change our ways. I think we can figure out how to change our ways to beat what they're trying to do to us. So if we know how to beat what they're trying to do to us, it really doesn't matter who's trying to do it to us. You see what I'm saying? They're feeding on negative energy. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know what they're doing. Changing frequency, negative emotion. Something is feeding on this, because the entire matrix, whether you believe, as I do and others, that this is literally some sort of an illusory matrix where we're in a quantum fluid reality, things aren't real, or everything is, completely real. It doesn't matter, because ultimately what whoever is lurking in the dark back room is doing to us, I think it's the same thing. We are set up to fight with each other, to separate from each other, to not live as the family. It's just constant negativity, and something is feeding off of that, in my opinion. So I hope that sparked your interest. I will build an argument around that in the next sections, and then I will come back to that. And sometimes, when I go through this, I actually will organize my thoughts a little bit better talking it out like this than I ever have done on my own, say with a notebook. So maybe I'll even get to another conclusion here. I hope you stick with me. So leading up to the election, I was very excited for the election, not for reasons, of course, that you would think, or somebody that doesn't know this channel would think. It was because I knew reality couldn't hide much longer. And now that Trump has been given the presidency, we have more reality revealed under that or this circumstance than if Hillary would have gotten in. And, as awake as I think I am, if Hillary would have gotten in, well, that would have revealed reality in its own right. There's no possible way she could have won the vote. 90% of the American public hated her guts, so it would have revealed its own reality, but there would have always been that little tiny voice inside many of us, and myself as well, would think, what if Trump would have gotten in? And trying to hold on to that little bit of hope left in Pandora's box. So Trump gets in, essentially does nothing different than Hillary Clinton, and everything we've suspected about reality, or I've suspected, and many people have beat me up over the years for not just coming out and saying everything's rigged. Well, I was being a little bit too hopeful, and I was waiting a little bit too long. But now, with Trump in there, we see 100% reality's been revealed. And I certainly don't want to spend any time on this, and most of you don't want me to, but I just have to mention this for anybody that's not ultimately familiar with this YouTube channel. Look, if Trump was for real, he would have, the first thing he would have done on the first day in office is address the hundreds upon hundreds of Bill of Rights violations. There have been hundreds of violations, not to a little bit of liberty here, a little bit of this, or some red tape. No, blatant violations to something that should be kind of somewhat important to all of us, the Bill of Rights. He has addressed none of them. Of course, he's cutting back the EPA and doing some things. He has to do some things that differentiate himself from Hillary Clinton, or people would stop believing that the two-party system is real. You and I know it's not real, but again, he can't do exactly what Hillary would have done. He has to throw the mindless conservatives some bones so they believe that Republicans are actually different than Democrats. So, of course, he's going to do some things that you and I may consider good. People that see that this government needs to be, $1 trillion needs to be shaved off of it. Of course, he's going to do some good things, or it would expose itself. I had a really bad analogy I was going to present, but I'm not going to. You get the point. So reality's been revealed. And what you have to do at this point in presenting the argument that I'm trying to present, excuse me, it's like a seed stuck, I got it out, sorry, is you have to go back and do the Sherlock Holmes. And the Sherlock Holmes, to me, is basically not eliminating the impossible, everything else is possible, but I don't know why I'm even assigning this to Sherlock Holmes, but basically saying, what do we absolutely know now that reality has been revealed to many of us over the last 1, 3, or 5 years? We know that whoever is in the back room and controls life on this earth, however you want to define that, and I earlier didn't even mention, it could be demonic minions, everything's in the mix for what's in that back room. We know for sure at this point that they want us fighting with each other. Number one, they want us in different camps, and they want us separated from our family and friends, isolated and fighting. We know that. And what we need to do is we have to take what we know and expand our theory out from there. So obviously everybody knows what I'm talking about, but we have Black Lives Matter fighting with the cops. We have constant racial divide. Now we have, with immigration, we have the Latino to the non-Latino divide. Now we have the divide between the homosexual, LGBT, and transgender are in their little camps. And the bathroom issue is just meant to incense. See, all of these issues, like the bathroom issue, it's only meant to put us in camps so we fight with each other. Now you know this, I'm just laying groundwork. Ultimately, I'm going to take this argument into beyond the fish tank reason for why do we fight with each other. The fish tank answer would be, and would be this. Well, and it's true, but it's still the fish tank answer. The more we fight with each other, the less we're focusing on their criminality. Yes, obviously, but it's much, much more than that. Again, the fish in the fish tank have no idea what's really going on out of the tank, but they never will have an idea. The human mind will never really be able to fully understand and comprehend what's going on outside of our universe. But realizing that there are certain things we cannot comprehend, we can use that like a variable in an algebra equation, 4 times y. We don't know what the y is, but we can use that in some way to find the answer. I'm not describing that very well, but I think you're following my point. I have to organize my thoughts. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm glad I took a few moments because this is extremely important. This is the main part of this video, but then the back part will be speculation as to if they're dividing us and they're making us fight with each other all the time, what ultimately are they getting out of that? That's where we're going to give our best guess, myself and you hopefully in the comments. But this is very interesting, and there's 4 ways it looks like well, there's 4 things they're doing to create infighting, low frequency, negative resonance on this planet. One is the classic divide into camps, like I just mentioned in the last section, so I won't spend too much time on it. Trump supporter, Trump hater, Hillary Clinton supporter, Republican, Democrat. Everybody's in their camp. Everybody's got their little flag. LGBT supports the bathroom issue. Conservatives are not going to be for a big giant man with a beard and a dress going and pulling his schlong out in front of his 6-year-old daughter. These issues are created, so we fight with each other and we entrench more into our camp. Well, I'm an evangelical baker and I don't want to bake cakes for a gay wedding. everything throughout the news is designed to put us in camps. And when you realize this, you can go back to a Trayvon Martin situation, and I didn't have my eye to hoax like I do now. But in my opinion, it was a completely crafted situation. I know nothing about the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin situation, but knowing what I know now, I can look back on it, that or the Freddie Gray incident, whatever, and the amount of separation, the white and black divide it created, without even a close investigation from me, I would say it's almost 100% likely that it was created and crafted to have us fight with each other. So you could use that axiom or corollary that any situation that you see on the news where people immediately get into camps and start fighting with each other, without even a close investigation, you can likely determine that that's a crafted, created, or staged event, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's up and down the board. You have Alex Jones lovers and Alex Jones haters, even inside of our own circles. Alex Jones haters they're going to hate him on the liberal side, but there's groups of us, of course, and we hate him in the alt-right circle. Everything is gangster rap. I mean, gangster rap was created to create a counterculture that wouldn't be accepted by middle class, mostly whites. I mean, so you can just go down a huge list here, and I'm not even going to bother with it. But here's another interesting thing. Conspiracy actually creates separation. And don't think they don't know this. I was thinking about this the other day, but it's time to expose this. Was watching the Orlando press conference for the Pulse, and I've showed this several times in recent videos, where that gentleman, I shouldn't call him that, the cop comes up smiling in the back of the press conference and winking and smiling and I thought, oh my God, that guy just didn't screw up, and that was planned. That was done on purpose, in my opinion. And I've thought about it recently as well. A lot of the major mistakes in many of the hoaxes and false flags are actually done on purpose. They're done on purpose so someone with a discerning eye like you and I, it just adds to the overwhelming evidence that this was fake, or this was a hoax, or this was a false flag. Like the passport that was found at the bottom of the World Trade Center after the fireball went off. See, that's done on purpose. They're not that stupid. We're fish in a fish tank to them, okay, looking in. They're looking in on us, in other words. They're not that dumb. They're not going to make those mistakes. Therefore, we have to conclude that those mistakes, and we have blatant mistakes at every hoax or every false flag, it's done on purpose because they know that it's just not a big enough mistake where we're going to convince our family, friends, and neighbors that 9/11 didn't really happen from 19 hijackers. But it's a big enough mistake where people like us are going to grab it and we're going to show it to our family, friends, and neighbors. And they're not going to accept it, which causes more infighting. You can go to every one of these hoaxes or false flags and you can find major mistakes. And we've all grabbed on to these mistakes. But think about it. Have they been successful in waking people up? Well, yeah, a few people wake up. But generally, no, your family's not awake. Generally, no, your neighbors aren't awake. So ultimately, they're willing to do the trade-off. They'll incorporate some obvious mistakes into again, a passport falls down from a fire. But do you think they're not stupid? Trust me. They could be off-world smart. So they're not. We're the fish in the fish tank. They know what they're doing. Okay. To figure out what's going on and what our predicament is, we have to give them the credit they most likely are due. They're not stupid. Okay. They know paper can't survive a fireball. They figure it'll wake up 1,000 people, but it'll cause 100,000 to abandon their family and best friends. It'll cause 100,000 to get divorced. Just as going back 100 years, families have, husbands and wives have divorced over presidential candidates. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. They get into their camp, it causes fighting. That's ultimately what they're feeding off of. So conspiracy, what we latch on to, and the obvious mistakes that we point out, actually feeds their purpose. Okay. We also have, on top of this, what else creates, if you're just trying to have the whole planet in negative resonance, negative frequency, you create a sense of powerless. Well, I was going to say this, I wrote this, you create a separation in people, which I've talked about, but think of it in other areas, like an inner city mother that is able to get a certain amount of child support through welfare for each child she has, but if a husband is in the home, and he even has a menial job like pumping gas, she can't get the same level of support. So the system is actually designed to separate us, to not have husbands or men live with their wives and children. The monetary carrots are set up so families are broken up and separated. Look at the way we all seem to, all through my 20s, now we live alone. We all live alone. The internet separates us. The entire system is crafted so families no longer live with each other and people are isolated. That's another issue. So we also have the powerlessness issue, and that's to answer a question that came up in the last video. The Dr. Dung, or whatever, Dr. Fung, or whatever his name, the doctor on the United Airlines flight that was dragged off, and miraculously somehow he broke free of his young captors, the security guards, and he runs back on the plane, and he says, kill me, kill me, kill me. It's ridiculous. That is meant to bring back down the collective resonance and frequency of this population, of which we all collectively put out a resonance or an energy on this planet. And is it going to be positive or negative? That's meant to lower it again. Like we look and we go, it's to make us feel powerless. This guy did everything right. He fulfilled every aspect of his contract. He paid for the ticket. He went through security. He got up early in the morning to get to the airport. He put his butt in the seat. That's the equivalent of going to IKEA and taking delivery on a chair and getting it in your house. And then IKEA shows up at the door and says, oh, a bar we do business with needs your chair, and rips it out from under your big, fat, bulbous behind. He was in his seat. And even then, the corporation had control. Big Brother had control. Your definition of Big Brother now must expand and extend, not just to government. Big corporations now have control over you. You must widen your definition of Big Brother. That's the point of the United hoax, folks. And then ultimately on top of that, we have the resonance of fear. So it's beyond a trifecta. What's a quadrecta is what they're delivering on us to lower our frequency, our energy. Fear. There's always a resonance of fear, whether it be people that believe some of these false flags or believe ISIS is coming, or just the fear of the IRS, knowing there's a 75,000 or 80,000 page tax code where if you screw up one little thing in your little small business that sells eggs, or expand it to other government agencies, Gestapos, like the EPA or the Department of Agriculture, where you're selling eggs out of your backyard, they can come with guns drawn, arrest you, imprison you, and fine you until you are out of business and lose your home, just because you or your little kid setting up a lemonade stand didn't get the proper permits. When we hear stories about kids' lemonade stands shut down, that's not the press trying to do right by you and me by reporting this injustice. It's the press inserting a story into your subconscious that Big Brother exists now at a magnitude of which you could have never imagined, and no one is safe from their ability to control, not even a 6th grader with a lemonade stand. That is the point of all of that. So even when the press seems like they're doing right by you, they're delivering the subconscious message of our puppet masters and our controllers. So outside of all the direct evidence I've mentioned, of which I could go on for another 2 hours, you get the point, we have that overlying residence of fear. The next part will be trying to figure out what the hell they're doing with all this negative energy and how they're harnessing it or who's harnessing it. Okay, I think I put forth a pretty convincing argument, and we don't need to spend any more time on it if the argument is convincing, that everybody in the back room that runs this world is doing everything they can and have done so for hundreds of years or much, much longer to get us separated into fighting with each other. We all pretty much agree on that. We could see that at this point. The key here, and this is going way down the conspiracy rabbit hole, where we will start to disagree, and I'll put forth some absolute way out speculation, is who's benefiting from all of this, who's feeding off of it. So I'm going to run out of time because this video is getting very long, but I just want to say one thing. My perspective or understanding, or I don't know at this point what's around the corner. I can only speculating, but I don't think it's as simple as the logical fish tank explanation, which is it's all for money. And they all want to make their billions and their trillions, and that's why they keep us in this slave system, and they don't have to pay taxes and we do. And that's a factor. These people benefit from their money, but it's so far beyond that. I mean, it's more, to me, it's more related to war being actual blood sacrifice, soul sucking. This reality being a soul trap. I'm going there. That's where I'm going. That's potentially leaving the fish tank. The fish tank answer is legitimate, but it's not just for money. I mean, come on. I mean, there's so much more going on. I'm again more in the camp when I watch a YouTube video and someone says, yeah, I mean, when every bit of the English language was crafted such to basically cast a spell. Because collectively, human beings do in some way create quantum reality, collectively. And if we can be kept in a box or with a negative frequency or meant to say things or do things in a certain way, we're all casting spells in their favor. We might be the real creators, and they are not. They manipulate us to get what they want. I mean, I believe all of this to some degree or another, and it's pretty far down the rabbit hole for most people. But ultimately, if you're a fish in a fish tank, the wise old fish are speculating what's at the far reaches of this tank, and that corner and that corner, and the fish comes along and says, you guys are just worried about the corners of this tank. I mean, there's something, imagine, 1 billion times bigger than this, that would take us over 70 years to swim to, called the Atlantic Ocean. Well, that fish would be laughed at, but who ultimately would be right? You have to think that big to even approach the truth. So ultimately, we hear a lot on YouTube that eugenicists and they want to kill all of us. To me, that's ridiculous. They're so far advanced, superior, they would have killed us a long time ago. The technology that exists is far more advanced than what we know. They could have wiped us out under the guise of, it just was the swine flu with the 1918 bird flu times 100. That wiped out 50 million people or so around the world. They could wipe us out, and they would be given the vaccines that they need to survive. Could have done it a long time ago. They don't want to wipe us out. They need us. They need us, and that does get into my theories and the theories of others, like the movie Jupiter Ascending, that they're feeding off negative energy, the way many recently with this Pizzagate stuff and the close examination of pedophilia, which relates to Satanism and blood sacrifice and spirit cooking, how it's energy feeding ultimately. When you look in the deepest, darkest corners of that sickness, it's not like sexual gratification as much as energy feeding. trust me, I don't know. It's what I've heard, but it is in line with the way I think these sick minds operate. And we have no other explanation other than to call them sick minds, because we don't understand it, nor will we, in my opinion, ever understand who is in the back room running things. As fish in the fish tank, we'll never understand the inner workings of the pet store and who owns it and why and how he pays it his account. We just don't understand that as fish, and we are fish, but just a few levels up. So I do believe the people in the back room, I don't think someone as stupid as George Bush ever understood this. He's not very bright. Dick Cheney might have a sense. The people he deals with in the back room know, because the masters that they report to really know what's going on. Call it a different species, call it an alien, call it a devil, call it what you want, but it's people or groups with an understanding and ancient knowledge as to how this world really works versus what knowledge we have. Well, we don't have any. The same way like a Jordan Maxwell would say, why do you think Hollywood's called Hollywood? Well, it's not just pulled out of somebody's ass. The ancient druids would shape their wands from a holly tree or a holly bush. Hollywood. Magic spells. Those types of spells are cast from the motion picture industry to influence all, to create a society or a negative resonance or frequency that in some way benefits those in control or those feeding off of the society. But we are the creators. We create it. I don't even think they can do it. I think ultimately it's likely we are far more powerful than they are. Just as once I was driving up Route 5 between Los Angeles and San Francisco, and I looked off to my right, and there was this field. I mean, there might have been, I don't know, it was like 10,000 bulls and cows in this field. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen. I had never known ranch could be that big. I don't know exactly where this was in California. Visalia or something, I don't know. But that's what we are. Those bulls, if they ever charged in the same direction, unstoppable. So that's what they do to us. I mean, they just simply make sure we don't figure anything out and don't charge in the same direction. But this ancient knowledge, when you talk to ancient or secret geometry or whatever, magic itself, that some form of all this stuff exists, and somewhere people know. It might be not as simple as the Rothschilds understand it, or ancient families like the Windsors that aren't really Windsors and the Queen understand it, but somebody in the back room understands it. We understood it at some point, and that knowledge, in my opinion, was taken away from us. So the movie Jupiter Ascending, it's horrible, but this woman, she's a famous actress, she's cleaning toilets, and I guess there's an alien ship somewhere, or they're off-world and they're observing the humans. Turns out later they're feeding off of the planet. And like, well, this woman is cleaning toilets. It turns out she's related to the ancient line, the elite bloodline. So they snatch her up, and she was cleaning toilets one day. The next day she's on this off-world colony, and they basically say, oh, you're heir to the throne, and no, look down at that planet there. See that you're with us now, so we can tell you that planet there. The reason I'm, I think one woman says I'm, 1900 years old or almost 2000 years old, and I look like a 23-year-old hot model, is because we feed off the soul stuff and the energy. That planet down there of Earth is nothing but a farm. It's an energy farm that we suck from or off. We feed on energy, feed on souls. In some way, in my opinion, in some way, I don't know how they're feeding off it. Why we lower the energy and how maybe they can see it. I don't know, but they're feeding off of it in some way. All right, they're feeding off of it in some way. Let me organize my thoughts for the last and final section. So where I've been spending my time on the web and on YouTube and doing research, although I haven't presented any of this research until now, I didn't want to say anything until I had somewhat of a sense as to what might be going on, and it's still just speculation. I'm trying to figure out, you know, what they're feeding on and how that works. Of course, nobody has all the answers. Nobody that's not in the darkest of the back rooms. But you know, here's just some possibilities, and then I'll talk on the back end. There's a lot on YouTube about human beings' ability to ascend from a three-dimensional reality into some sort of 4D reality, a different level of awareness or existence. Star Trek has hinted some of these concepts. In the Next Generation, there was an alien race that he was going through a transformation. At the end, he merged into a pure being of light, and I believe the people he was interacting with was trying to keep him down. So people could say that, look, those that are getting something from us, feeding off us in some way, they have to keep our resonance low. As soon as we all ascend or become something more than what we are now, we're not going to get into what that may mean. Whether ascension is we wake up in another plane of existence, a heaven, we're here, we just understand more and our frequency rises, or a psychic would say our aura has changed, or we pop into a being of light. It doesn't matter for the purposes of this video. To me, it's pretty clear that they want, through all of this negativity, by creating the slave system, they want to keep us in some sort of a pen, because they're getting something from us or from our energy in some way. And I do believe I believe human beings have powers long since forgotten that they simply are trying to repress. Because if we became what we were capable of, they lose control, they lose their source of energy, the way a pedophile would lose his source of whatever he gets if the children ran out the back door in the middle of the night and he didn't know he lost, you know, that type of thing. They don't want the children, which is us, running out the back door. I believe in some way this is all related to, I mean, if you just look at war itself, there's no reason for all these wars. If you just look at it logically, certain women would say, well, that's what you get when men are in charge, and you know, that's the answer. That's the fish tank answer. That's a fish tank answer. It's much more than that. The consequence of war is so horrific, loss of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of lives. There's obviously more to it than just battling over a border or men's ego. No, it's the stuff of soul sucking, in my opinion. It's the stuff of blood sacrifice, in my opinion. There's just no other explanation for the constant state of war. At any one time on this planet, it's not covered in the news, but there's, if you count small civil wars or tribal battles, or what happens with between the Hutus and the Hutus, whatever happened in Uganda, or the mass genocide in Somalia, was it Somalia, or Rwanda? It was Rwanda in Africa. The Juntas, whatever, you understand. There was 1 million killed in this tribal civil conflict, almost 1 million, I believe, or more. This is not natural. It's manipulated killing, and somehow when we all kill each other in the name of what? You know, Rage Against the Machine. Killing in the name of, they're referring to killing in the name of religion. But when we all kill each other, these controllers are getting something out of it. Something related to blood sacrifice, in my opinion. That's why I listen to this Og Telez channel. If you're not familiar with who this is, it takes you about 20 videos to even somewhat understand what he's saying. He's been in these secret projects, he's been shown everything, but he doesn't deliver it in a way that really makes sense. I've been told I deliver things in a way people can understand. But I listen, because when you venture into these areas, nothing is off the table to me. I listen. He talks about this planet is a soul trap. This planet is an illusory environment that we are real souls inhabiting avatar bodies, and if in the natural course of things we should have passed on or gone somewhere else a long time ago. Some parasitic element related to an artificial AI somehow took over this realm. And if it is illusory, that would be done, or this realm would be taken over the way an AI supercomputer could someday wake up and realize that I think, therefore I am AI supercomputer, and everything inside me now I control or is mine. I've postulated in the past maybe we've already taken the mark of the beast. Maybe we already are in a transhumanism situation. We already accepted transhumanism. We've already implanted our minds in a computer, and this is it. Because sometimes there's no other explanation for the nuttiness I see on my television or out the door. There's no other explanation, but I don't want to stray. So this guy Og Telez, again, this video I want to say is not for everybody, but it's not for most people unless he can find a way to be more clear in his descriptions. He says we're in a soul trap. Again, illusory environment. A parasitic AI took it over a long time ago. And you are a real soul. You are trapped here in your avatar. And they figured out a way that upon your death, they will figure out a way. Your soul might have an inclination of where it wants to go or where it wants to be or where it wants to connect to, the ultimate source of this universe. But they found a way to suck it right back, and you'll basically reincarnate into this environment again, as you have thousands or millions of times in the past. So when somebody talks about that, I listen, because it does resonate with the little that I know or whatever I can observe on this planet. That does resonate, that constant war, constant putting us at odds with each other, constant black versus white. And the news, all the news does is just, it's like squeezing lighter fluid on a fire. And once you see this, you see all this conflict, and brother versus brother is all by design. And you can, the logical choice after that, as we've been talking, is they're feeding off of that. Well, the logical choice after that, one of the many paths that might be logical, is they've created some sort of a soul trap here for us. So when somebody presents that, I don't laugh, folks. I listen, as we all should. Okay, that's the fish in the fish tank listening to that one fish saying, nobody's really listening to me, but this is a freaking tank and there's something out there called an ocean. But that's so amazingly beyond belief, nobody in the tank's going to freaking pay any attention. Well, I would if I was in that tank. And even going into these really big areas, whether you think I'm off base or not, this is trying to be pretty big thinking. It's still probably not even 1% of what really we need to know to figure out our predicament. All we can do for right now is we can observe and identify how they're trying to get us to fight with each other. And forget pointing out that the Sandy Hook was a hoax, because the person next to you is not going to accept that. But they might accept, because it resonates deep down in their very fiber of their being, they might accept that, oh, do you see what they're doing here? They're reintroducing affirmative action. I just pulled that out of my butt. Reintroducing affirmative action. Don't you see that all of this is just to get us to fight with one another? Because what happens? Black people will take up their camp, or other certain minorities, and say the white man's been keeping us down and there still needs to be slavery reparations. So bring affirmative action back. We should get, it's going to be many hundreds of years for them to atone for what they did to us. And then you have white people going, affirmative action, I didn't own slaves, it was such a long time ago, I have not a racist bone in my body. And they're bringing this up again, where we've got Michael Savage on the radio saying, I lost a position to a minority because they had to implement affirmative. They don't care about helping black people. You have to realize the game. You have to realize the manipulation and point it out to others. They don't care about making sure black people can get into Harvard. Affirmative action. Of course, the lower level people in the admissions office at Harvard that don't really know what's going on in this reality, they think it's just about helping minorities. They don't know shit about shit. They would think we're crazy for even having this discussion. But ultimately, the puppet master that puts that back down in place knows people are going to get upset over it. Black people will go into their camp. Whites will go into their camp. Ultimately, if everybody's treated the same, I've had current job applications where you go to the end of the online application and it says, even before it says, are you white, black, there's a separate section that says, are you Latino or not? It's a separate question. And then after that, you say you're black, you're white, Latino or not. And the only thing you think when you see this is, well, why is this here? Obviously, because in certain industries that need to push forth diversity through government contracts or whatever, they need so many Latinos in the mix. It's just divide and conquer. It's creating a separation, a hatred. So I click that I'm not Latino, and I know every time I click it in one of these situations that by clicking it, that is hurting my chance to be accepted for whatever I'm bidding on, or whatever government contract it may be, or whatever employment application it may be. You think by saying you're non-Latino that benefits you in any way? Maybe if the KKK is hiring, but even that is originally a construct. Not the people that are in the KKK may truly be racist and believe in white supremacy, but our puppet masters allowed it or coaxed it into being because it's just another organization where they can divide each other and fight amongst each other. So the only thing to take away from this video is look for the non-stop divide and conquer strategy on every level. Look at the way the news posits certain stories or talks about certain groups or presents other groups. Look how they try to place people in camps of conservative. And any time, look for it yourself, see it, recognize it. But then most importantly, point that out to others. Point that out to others instead of maybe saying that, can't you see that in Sandy Hook, instead of taking the little children to morgues and mortuaries that are all over the area, including New York City, why would they set up a tent? A tent in the parking lot of the school? I mean, that's just not possible. They would show the body's dignity. The parents would absolutely demand the dignity versus a tent. No one's going to buy that. So I'm not going that route much longer. I might make a video for you and I, hoping somebody in Mumbai, India somehow sees my YouTube channel. That's not going to convince anybody. Getting people to see the ultimate game plan may have a better chance of waking people up. And then ultimately what we have to do is, how do we win? Well, it's kind of important to throw that out. I certainly don't know exactly how to win, but it's along the lines of recognizing the system that they want to create, that they're feeding off of. Even if we don't understand ultimately how they're feeding off of it, we know they feed off war, for example. Whether you believe it's blood sacrifice or not, we know they're feeding off war. So recognize it and withdraw from it. In any way possible, withdraw from it. If that means throwing your TV out the window, we'll throw your TV out the window. If it means no more cable bill, these are the minimum things we can do. Withdraw, recognize what they want to create, and go the opposite way. And ultimately, you know what leads back? The old tenets of what Jesus Christ stood for, or Buddha stands for, love. Getting angry and saying, I hope Hillary Clinton gets her due. There, that negative energy just escaped from my soul, my being, and something fed off of it. They want me to hate Hillary Clinton. They need me to hate Hillary Clinton. They want me on that wall. They need me on that. Look, they want me to hate that creature. And they want others to love. They don't want any gray, because they will feed off of that. I thought, well, I can't even say some of the negative thoughts I had when I see Nancy Pelosi. Why do you think they put somebody so horrid representing the Democrat side? Someone, when you and I see that creature, we get angry. Realize and recognize that that is all what they want. And even what Og Talese says, he says, don't get angry. Civil war, or that's not going to happen, but that's what they want. Don't infight, love, because do the opposite of what they want. They want us to hate, so love. It's tough for me. I'm the angriest, one of the most negative people in the world right now based on what I see happening. But I'm going to do whatever I can to change my ways. And I guess, hey, if somebody comes down your driveway to get your family in a EMP situation, well, you got to protect your family. Somebody slaps you the first time, turn the other cheek. Slap, it's not so bad. And they come again, then you go all out back at them. But don't let that sort of violence and hate be your first reaction. Make it be your last reaction, because I'm pretty sure the people that we're up against are feeding off of it. Where the hell did this video come from? Until the next time, Texas Shrugged. See you guys.